I'm joined in studio by Thulani Nzima. He's CEO at Tourism SA. Thanks very much for joining us, Thulani. Now, the 2010 World Cup was clearly a great success in terms of our future success for tourism.
Very much so. It gave us a few things that we couldn't pay with any marketing budget. The first one was the exposure that the country got when it comes to revealing it as a very attractive tourist destination. But it also gave us an opportunity to deal with other things such as concerns for safety and security. It showcased the country for what it is, a huge amount of awareness leveled. We gained a lot, and during that period, tourism grew by 15%. The following year, we followed up with another 3% growth on top of the 2010 numbers. So that goes to show that we are doing well. But if you take the impact of the 2010 numbers, in 2011, our tourism was actually growing at 7.4%, which was higher than the 3%, which was the global number. So we've done very well, and we have continued to do so year in and year out.
So from your observations, when you look at international tourists, what are the draw cards in South Africa in terms of the places that are most popular for tourists to visit?
South Africa has been very successful, firstly, as a safari destination. And beginning of 2010, that was an opportunity for us to showcase other elements of our tourism offering. Where we are at the moment is that we sell the country on the basis of its diversity of tourist products. Second thing is it is a value for money destination. It is the kind of destination where not necessarily based on the fact that the currency is weak at the moment against other foreign currencies, but that when you pay your $500 or your £500, whatever you're going to get in South Africa, it's actually worth a lot more. We've got diverse products here that are suited for every budget requirement. So if you are a very budget conscious person, you'll find something that you will say, yes, indeed, it was worth my money. If you are someone who likes opulence, we'll give you that experience. If you talk about our safari experiences, for instance, we have experiences that will range from your natural game reserve to your private lodges. And you look at the experiences that one is going to get from those two different tourist attractions, very much different. And each one of the people who come to this country will feel very happy. But what we have done as well, we have leveraged on our success as a safari destination. We are beginning to showcase our heritage and culture, our lifestyle, our design and fashion, wines, and food as well. We've done very well in that regard. So that is South Africa for you. That's what differentiates us from other African destinations, which also offer a safari experience.
What about South Africans themselves? Now, we know that organizations like yours are always encouraging South Africans to get to know people who come from Joburg, to get to know Mpumalanga, Limpopo and other places. What about South Africans touring around South Africa? Is that happening much, especially when we look at the economic climate?
South Africans are not traveling enough in their own country. We have embarked on a campaign called Nothing is More Fun Than a Short Left. So what we're trying to do with this campaign is firstly to inculcate a culture of tourism within South Africans and to make sure that South Africans do understand that tourism is for them as well. It is accessible, it is affordable. That we blow the myth that people feel that tourism is for the elite. In fact, it is for everybody else. So we have been encouraging South Africans to enjoy their country in the same way that tourists come to this country for. It's always very embarrassing for us as South Africans that we get introduced in our country, especially when it comes to tourism, by foreigners in this country. So it's about time that we ourselves start taking charge. We are beginning to see a bit of traction based on the campaign that we have embarked on. People are beginning to respond to it. The challenge really is to make sure that we shift the current shopping therapy that people have when they are stressed to travel therapy. We think it lasts a little bit longer. You get away from the treadmill of saying all the time when you are stressed, go in and buy your flat screen and you feel happy for a short while. Tourism will actually reward you. You go and meet new friends. You go and reward yourself for the hard work that you have done throughout the year.
And then what about the issue of Ebola? Obviously, that's been grabbing very negative headlines, and we hear that people in the East, for example, are very reluctant to travel to the African continent, of which South Africa is part. Do you think that in the short term it may have some implications, and what's your view about mid to long term?
It has already had some short-term implication, and that's because it's an emotive decision that people are making. It's based on their own understanding of where Ebola is prevalent, and regardless of the messages that we are communicating out there, it is still a little bit of a challenge. Now, with people getting information from the World Health Organization, a very trusted organization, they are beginning to understand Firstly, in terms of how you contract Ebola, it's not because you and I are sitting together here that maybe you need to go and check with the doctor whether I didn't pass Ebola to you. But it is also about understanding the fact that the countries that are affected mostly about Ebola are in the West African part of Africa. And that's quite a huge distance from South Africa. A lot of people tend to think that Africa is a continent, it's a country, not a continent. Geographically, most of the West African countries that we are talking about that are affected by Ebola at the moment are much closer to Europe than they are to South Africa for that matter. But what we have done, we have taken the cue from the World Health Organization, our own National Department of Tourism, of Health, that is giving us information, very accurate information on how the disease is managed, how it is contained in those areas, and keeping South Africa Ebola free until now. So we communicate those messages to those markets that are very, very sensitive about it. And we believe that such messages are getting through, and the number of people are beginning to now say, in fact, we can travel. And as you can imagine, Ebola is no different to any other disease. You're talking about plague, you're talking about, even for that matter, the fear of travel because someone is going to take the plane and plunge into buildings.
Thulani, let me interject very quickly. Crime, forget about Ebola. What about the impact of crime and how it's perceived? How does that affect tourism here?
The perceptions of safety and security has been a perennial thing for us in South Africa. Each time we talk about tourism, each time you talk about investment, people start off by saying, is it safe to be in South Africa? It's been an ongoing question for too long, and the answer has been the same. We are not the only country that gets affected by crime. And in fact, if you look at all the big cities, if you've been to New York, you will know that there are places in New York that even New Yorkers themselves don't go to. The same as in Johannesburg. And you go to London, exactly the same thing. So these are perceptions of safety and security. But for us, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. If you look at the 2010 numbers, 310,000 people were in this country during the Soccer World Cup. We finished the Soccer World Cup incident-free. And if there was a small incident, it would have been reported. Everybody had a cell phone. They would have captured that incident dramatically. It didn't happen. Every year, we have been outpacing the global tourism growth. South Africa has been growing at a figure that is higher than the global number. If you look at our 2012 numbers, we grew by 10.2%. The global number was only at about 4%. And you look again at 2013, we've been growing our numbers at 5%, which is very close to the global numbers. We are now beginning to hit a huge base. But the fact of the matter is that people are voting with their feet. They are coming to South Africa because once you've been to this country, you do actually get to understand that what you've been reading about is just perceptions. The reality is different.
Thulani, we'll leave it there. A positive news story for a change. Thank you for your time. That was Thulani Nzima. He's CEO at SA Tourism.